called current events from a Christian perspective. I'm not one of those people that believe that we should be hidden under a rock as a Christian, or current events within the four walls. I'm not one of those people that believe that we should. That always happens to me. That we should be just stuck inside the four walls of the church. I'm just talking about Jesus. I don't want to hear about anything else. But everything else does affect us, and it affects us as Christians. It affects us as citizens and as family and people. And we should be involved. And I've talked to this before many times. And the whole point of separation of church and state is a lie. And we've gone through the fact that the God wants us to be involved, but we are to be involved with the Bible. Okay, so the Bible has an answer for everything. So whatever is being discussed or proposed or is in the news, there's a biblical answer for it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Somalians and Solomon. That's right, the Somalians and Solomon. Waste, fraud, abuse, and biblical measures. To blatantly commit a crime and never ever get caught, you only have to pay off enough of the right people, and eventually the honest ones will never be able to stop you. Actually, that's a quote I came up with myself, but this is what seems to be going on in America today. The left or the deep state, whatever, has been committing so much rampant, gigantic fraud that is embedded in the system, it's almost impossible to find it. And when you find it, because of the deep state, you can't stop it or change it. Governors, district attorneys, judges, the media, public officials all seem to work together to make what is clearly illegal legal, and to make what is wrong as right. And let's take a look at a Bible verse to see what the Bible has to say about that particular thing. And I'm going to share my screen. And here you can see that we are in Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. We shouldn't be defending crime. We shouldn't be defending evil. And what's going on today in Minnesota, which is basically the tip of the iceberg, is people are defending the waste, fraud, and abuse. And I want to just share a video with everybody here because of what's been going on, just to get a little bit of context. This is just a tip of the iceberg, but I think it'll provide some interesting background. And by the way, this is a young kid. He went out there with a microphone, and he went to a bunch of daycare centers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he got 150 million views in a day and a half. So I'm going to just play this 90-second video.
You've been living here for years now. How bad is this fraud?
So I was born in Minneapolis a long time ago. I've lived my whole life here. And my opinion is that this is the worst fraud in human history, what is occurring in Minnesota and more specifically in the Twin Cities right now.
How much money do you think has been sent around fraudulently here inside Minnesota?
Over the years, I would say anywhere from 80 to $100 billion.
And right now the big controversy is with Tim Walz and his government and the fraud that they've allowed to happen within the Somalian community. Right behind us is Cedar Riverside, a location where it is very densely populated with Somalians. How have Somalians gotten into the system to fraud the American taxpayer?
Well, so that complex you're seeing behind there, I attended the University of Minnesota, and in the area we're on right now, this is the West Bank, and it was always called the West Bank, and it was sort of the place to be when you're in college. and that was all student housing, 100%. That building you see in the background, it's now 100% Somali. And I can tell you confidently, they don't pay for their housing, they don't pay for their food, they don't pay for their vehicles, and on top of that, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fraudulent companies set up, and they're sucking billions of dollars out of the state of Minnesota.
So I just wanted to share that as a background of what's going on. And it's the tip of the iceberg. So they're talking up to $100 billion just for one city. And Elon Musk estimates it could be $800 billion every year that's been going on. And we have to speak up about these type of things. And people are beginning to wake up, because the idea of us paying taxes where they estimate 10% of the income for the government is going to waste, fraud, and abuse, and being pocketed in people's hands, that they've started this hashtag. I'm going to show you the hashtag, and I think it's pretty funny. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's a representative of people's frustration, and it's called EFIT, EFIT, and the federal income tax. It's a movement that's going on because we pay for a car, we buy the car, we have to pay for with tolls when we drive the car. We have to pay for the parts, taxes for that. We got to pay taxes for tolls. We got to pay taxes when we sell that car. We pay taxes for everything. And we're paying so many taxes. And now we find out that there's just so much abuse and fraud going on, that why should we be paying so much taxes? You know, the original debate of the American people with the Tea Party was the tax on tea was like minuscule. But slowly but surely, the government has convinced the American people to pay more and more and more. And what's happening is the younger people today are the ones who are really bearing the brunt. Yes, there are many people who can't even get groceries, or they work all day long to get groceries. And they're saying, effort, which is end federal income tax, because there's so much waste. It's a gigantic percentage of everything that's going on. Christians have got to speak up, because in the past, in the Bible, people did speak up. Representative Chip Roy, he's in Congress, he basically said, at some point, people, we need to get rid of all 435 members of the House and all 100 members of the Senate and start over. Congress is literally failing the American people. And that's what's going on. And now I want to make a shift, because I'm talking about the Somalians and I'm talking about Solomon, because there is a lot of correlation. You can call them the Somalianites, the Somalianites. That's a funny name, but basically, Solomon, people might think he was very wise, a wise man, wisest man ever. He was in the beginning, but his wiseness got corrupted as he went on and on and on. Let me give you a couple examples. He had heavy taxation and forced labor. So let's show you. I want to show you this Bible verse. Here we go. Now, he's conscripted 30,000 men. This is forced labor, okay? He just said, okay, I got 30,000 men. We got work we got to do over in Lebanon. So, okay, 10,000 men for a month, and you come back for 2 months. Another 10,000 go, and you come back for 2 months. And they would alternate. 30,000 men, no pay, no nothing. They didn't get anything for all of that work that they did. That's one of the things that Solomon did. And you know, it was very much of a burden on the people. Also, heavy taxation was there. So, as we all know, that We're going to get to that shortly, but we all know that the story of Queen Sheba, right? Queen Sheba came to Solomon, and she was very, very impressed with Solomon. And she gave Solomon a gift. That gift was 112 talents of gold, which is about 4.5 tons, which is about $350 million in current gold pricing. But she also gave spices and precious stones and additional luxury goods and everything else that she gave to King Solomon. That was a lot. Let's take a look at what it was. He received all of this. Well, that's great. He got all this money, right? He got money into the government from a foreign country, right? That sounds like a good deal, right? Okay.
Hmm.
Um, let's take a quick look here. She gave 120 talents to King Solomon. Never had that before, but here you get the gist. King Solomon gave Queen of Sheba all she desired and all she asked for. He gave her more than she had brought to him. And then she returned to her home country. Of course, she returned. She goes, "Hey, thanks." And this is basically, you would call this ego, okay? The big king said, "I'm not allowed to receive a gift because I'm so important. I'm so rich. Anybody gives me a gift, the gift I have to give to them has to be greater." So he's funding foreign countries. This is what's also going on in America. We're funding foreign countries. Well, why should we be doing that? Why are we the bank of America, of the world? I'm not quite sure why we should be. But the whole idea of this, it is estimated, and then there are different estimates, but we're talking that he was the richest man ever, estimated up to $3 trillion. And this is going back thousands of years. There's nobody that's $3 trillion today. I think Elon Musk is close to a trillion. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it's just that's how much he had. But how did he get this? Well, I discussed number one, he had forced labor. Number two, it was a grievous uh, yoke on the people because he taxed the people. So I want to show you that one. Your father put a heavy yoke on us. Now, this is after Solomon died, so we're talking to his son. You know, he put a heavy yoke on us. Please lighten this harsh labor. And the heavy yoke, they're crying out. And that's what's going on in America. People are crying out, especially the young people, because they're in a situation that 100% of the salary is going just to living every day, just to living day to day. And think about it. If your salary comes in, 100% of it goes to rent and to your car and to everything else. What kind of life is that? So we talked about forced labor, heavy taxation, right? Those are the two things. The third one, he had excessive wealth and extravagance. We discussed that. He was worth about almost $3 trillion. But it also contributed to the oppression of the people. And this is what's going on in America. I want to show you. I showed you the thing, the end federal income tax. The whole point is that the belief that all you got to do is get elected and you become a billionaire or you become a multi-millionaire. We've seen people that go in like AOC. She was worth $40,000. Now she's a multi-millionaire. How does that happen? That's exactly what happened with Solomon. His wealth was legendary, but were the people blessed? No. And then he falls into idolatry, spiritual decline, lavish lifestyle, and a harem. 700 wives, 300 concubines. I mean, To take care of your wife takes a lot of work, right? Right, Jake? Yeah, we all take care of our wives.
Yes,
But
it does.
how would you like to take care of 1,000 of them? All the arguing and I need I need this food, I need this. It was probably crazy. And then they sucked him into idolatry. And not only that, but when he grew old, let's say 1 Kings 14, 6, 11, 11. I want to show you in the beginning of Solomon's reign, things were pretty good. Okay, this is the beginning. During his reign, everyone lived in safety and on their own vine and under their own fig tree, which it's a nice picture, okay? It's a nice picture of life, but things change. As Solomon grew old, this is 1 Kings 11:4, his wife turns his heart to other gods, which is really sad. His heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as David his father had been. He followed this God and the goddess of this God because, hey, his wife says, well, this is the God. If you want me, you got to follow this Ashtoreth. The other woman says, if you want me, you got to follow Sidonians or Moloch, all the Amalekites. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord. Now, that's going to bring us to the second section of this teaching, which has to do with dishonest weights and measures, okay? Because the spiritual attack or the apostasy of Solomon affects his people. The spiritual attack and greed of the American government politicians affects us. They get rich, we get poor. And what happens is somebody says, oh, there's Lois, I'm going to admit her. I don't know how long she was waiting. So what happens is that people go to Congress and they see, well, this person's getting $1 million. And a lot of congressmen, they sleep in their office because they can't even afford, because they don't make a lot of money. They have drawers, they pull a drawer out and there's a bed. And they're living like that. And they see the guy across the hall having parties, driving Mercedes, whatever, and having the life. And they say, well, maybe I should do some of this stuff. And this is kind of where we get rhinos from, because hey, if you got money, you can buy off a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't make a difference. So I want to show you another picture here and a little bit of the background, because this is where this is even shown on all of legal. And this is Lady Liberty, okay? That's who it is, Lady Liberty. And I'm sorry, Lady Justice, excuse me. So she's holding the weights. And the idea is during a court, the court should be blind. It should not be affected by the left or the right. They should only be affected by the rule of law. And the justice, there's the prosecutor and the defendant. They submit their cases. They put their cases on the way. The judge is blind, and with a swift sword, it's supposed to be carried out quickly. And we covered that verse previously. It says the rule of law, justice must be carried out quickly, otherwise the people's hearts devise with evil. We talked about that last week, a couple of weeks ago, with the death penalty, because there have been studies saying that the death penalty is ineffective. Of course it's ineffective, because it takes 30 years to finally get the approval to kill somebody. The Bible says it must be carried out quickly. If people were administered justly the death penalty within a month, all of a sudden murder would stop. So you can see that they had the point of the sword was to go quickly. Now there's many different pictures. This isn't the only one, but I like this one the best because it shows her standing on the snake, which is also equivalent to being Satan, because in a true judge, like in the Old Testament, they should be blind and they should be dispensing justice and not let evil come in. And they're stepping on Satan. And you can see there's books here. And those books represent the law, and some people say they could represent the Constitution. It's a nice thing to think about. But technically, the whole thing of Lady Justice goes back to the goddess Mat, M-A-A-T, and she was the embodiment of divine order, customs, and righteousness of law. So that's a little bit of the background of it. But we could take bad things and use them for good. But the point is, it should be blind. Now, I want to ask you an interesting question as you think about those weights. So the merchants back then used to carry bags, and they would have their scales and the weight. And basically, when you saw that scale, there was a stick hanging down, and things were balanced. So he would have a weight. Let's say it would be a pound, for argument's sake. You put a pound on the left, and you say, "Well, I want a pound of fish, or I want a pound of meat, or I want a pound of cheese, or I want a pound of vegetable." It doesn't make a difference. So then he would put the weight on one side, and he would even it up. Now the problem is, I want a pound and a quarter. Well, I only got my weights are in pound increments. So you can see that there's room there for a little bit of use. And also what we found is that these merchants would have weights of different colors and different weights. And also cups, different sizes that you couldn't tell the difference from looking at it. They would take a cup of rice. Well, one would be slightly lower. So he would use one cup when he was buying. So this is one cup or one weight, a pound. This is a pound, and it was actually more than a pound. So he would buy more than a pound of food, of goods, for the pound's weight. He would use those weights. And then when he was selling, he would pick out the other colors and use the other seller's weights, which was less. And so that when they put the weight on, it was really less than a pound. He said it was a pound, but it was really less than a pound. So the weight was heavier. So the weight is heavier when he's selling and lighter when he's buying. He buys more for the same price. He sells more for a cheaper price. God had a lot to say about this, a lot to say. And I want to go through some of them so we understand how much. And I also want to thank Bruce. Bruce, you also did some research in advance, and you looked at a lot of these. And please feel free to make your comment. But I was shocked of how many verses there are in the Bible against unequal weights, unequal standards, unequal measurements. And when you think about the American government and taxation, it's unequal. It's like you're putting all your money in, and only 80% is going towards the government, and 20% is going into the pockets of the of illegal. I'm not talking about the salaries. I'm not talking about their salaries because they deserve their salaries. Okay, so that's included. I'm talking about waste, fraud, and abuse gets taken out, and it takes a weight on people. Leviticus says, "Do not use dishonest standards when measuring length, weight, quality. Use honest scales, honest weights, honest ephats, honest hins." Hin was a liquid measurement. Okay, an ephat was a cup, I believe. I am your Lord, your God, who brought you out of Egypt. So we as Christians should be honest. Bruce, it'd be really easy as a business owner to have a set standard of an hourly rate. My hourly rate is, I'm going to make up a number, $125 an hour. But you see somebody coming in that's rich, and you kind of put a little card out here, and you say, "Well, my hourly rate is $175." I'm not saying you do that, but these are the type of things that God hates that we should not be doing. Deuteronomy says, don't have different weights in your bag. Remember, they carried the weights in their bag. They would travel them, one heavy, one light. Okay? Do not have different measures in your house, one large, one small. If you have an accurate and honest weights and measures, that you may live long with the Lord. Let me make this a little bigger so you can read that. For the Lord your God detests anyone who does these. We should not be dishonest for our own gain. Money is the root of a lot of evil. The Bible, the King James is a little bit wrong. It says the root of all evil. No, it's not. It's the root of a lot of evil. But there's a
The love,
go ahead.
love of money.
Love, thank you. Love of money is the root. And there's when people get taxed heavily, the love of money goes up because you need it to live. And if you're thinking about living versus dying, you don't want to lose your life. So all of a sudden, it unofficially encourages waste, fraud, and abuse because now it increases crime because now I can't get by. I've got to do something. Proverbs: the Lord detests dishonest scales. Accurate weights find favor. Set a price. Be honest. Also, Proverbs: the lips of a king speak like an oracle. Now, an oracle is a woman that would prophesy. So, the way the legal cases went back then, when an oracle would speak, whether you like it or not, it was the law. You couldn't go against it. It's the same way with the king back then. Once the king said something, it was over. You couldn't go against it. His mouth does not betray justice. Okay, he speaks justice. Honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights in a bag are of his making. God makes the weights, but he detests wrongdoing. For the throne is established through righteousness. We should all be righteousness and takes pleasure in honest lips. When you think about our politicians today, do they have honest lips? They're
Sorry.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, we see something in the news. We see a video. It's really clear what happens. One side says this is absolutely horrible, the worst thing we should do, and the other side, this was justice. This was righteous. This should have been done. And there's little honesty in going on. And let's be honest. There is the Trump derangement syndrome. Whatever Trump says, we have to disagree with him. Okay, there's a waste, fraud, and abuse going on in Minneapolis to the tune of $100 billion. Well, that's Trump's fault. He's a horrible person. These poor people. So you see that going on, and God hates that. He hates that. Ezekiel, this is what the sovereign Lord says: "For you have gone far enough, princes of Egypt." In other words, we have enough in this country. You don't always need more. You don't. I'm very happy. I'm not looking for more. Okay? God loves that in us, that we can be content with what we have, be thankful for what we have, and don't always desire more. Give up your violence and oppression, because if you want more and you have people working for you, you can just simply oppress them so that you get more. And we see this in business all the time. And by the way, to keep people oppressed, you have to resort to violence sometimes to keep them in line. Hosea says, but you must return to your God, maintain love, maintain justice, and wait for your God. The merchant uses dishonest scales. He loves to defraud. There are people that love it. I mean, I'm sorry to say this. They love to be dishonest. They enjoy it. It makes their day. If I can rip somebody off, I'm very happy about it. That's sad. That is very sad. Amos, hear this, you who trample the needy. That's exactly what happens. As the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and so the people at the very bottom are scraping for the lives. Do away with the poor of the land. When the new moon will be over, we will sell grain, and the Sabbath will be ended, we may market wheat. Skimping on the measure, boosting the price, cheating with dishonest scales, buying the poor with silver, and the needy for a pair of sandals, selling even the sweeping of the wheat. So you're selling a person for a pair of sandals, a slave? I mean, you buy them for silver and you sell them. I mean, you buy them for a pair of sandals and you sell them for silver. You make a good profit. That's horrible. And of course, Micah, listen, the Lord is calling to the city, and to fear your name is wisdom. Heed to the rod and to one who's pointed it. Am I still to forgive your ill-gotten treasures? You know, when we cheat, what we get is ill-gotten. God is keeping track of that. You wicked houses, don't be wicked. And the short ephah, that's the measurement, which is cursed. Shall I quit somebody with dishonest scales? No. No. Should I acquit somebody with a bag of false weights? No. You rich people are violent. They're so happy with being rich, they will do anything to keep their power. And we see that going on in the government. It's ridiculous that these people are in power for so long. We don't have term limits, and we should. You reach people in environment, your inhabitants are liars, and their tongues speak deceitfully. And we see that going on in America today. And my point is really simple. The Christian church today needs to be aware of what's going on and not be blocked in the four walls. But our answer to everything is always like Jesus Christ's answer in the wilderness, what the Satan was he being attacked. It is written. So the answer to the Somalians is, it is written, this is dishonest. It needs to stop. This is written. God hates dishonest measurements. It is written, God hates cheating. It is written, God hates taking advantage of people. And these are our responses to people. And this is what I encouraging Christians to do, is to speak out in the public forum by using the word of God in any situation. There is not a situation that exists in the world that cannot be applied to the Bible, because God wrote the Bible. God wrote the Bible, didn't he? Of
The
course,
author.
he's the author of the Bible. Okay. Man wrote it, but God told man what to write. And is there an instance today or any other time that cannot be applied to the Bible? No, it's all in there. Proverbs is full of stuff, and there's many things that we can learn from examples. So I just want to say today that we should be speaking the word in all situations. We should be stopping fraud, waste, and abuse. We should be speaking up, because the Jewish people, when it got so embedded, like it's almost embedded in America, when the people spoke up, the leaders did not listen. And what happened was that the nation split. Okay. We ended up having a North Jewish nation and a South. The North had 10 tribes, the South had only 2 tribes. And that went on for forever. I don't want to have a split in America.
No.
Don't want that. So please speak out. So how can you speak out? Talk about these things. Go on Twitter, retweet things that you agree with. That's fine. Say what's in your heart. And say, use the Bible as an example. You can retweet that this is an abomination. So that's all I wanted to share today. And I'm going to get off of the live stream. God bless you. This is the Underdog Report. I'm the author of the book, JesusGospel.com. I write for Joe Hart.